Welcome to Wild Turkey Science, a podcast made possible by Turkeys for Tomorrow. I'm Dr. Marcus Lashley, Professor of Wildlife Ecology at the University of Florida.
And I'm Dr. Will Gulsby, Professor of Wildlife Ecology and Management at Auburn University. We're both lifelong hunters and devoted scientists who are passionate about hunting, managing, and researching wild turkeys.
In this podcast, we'll explore turkey research, speak to the experts in the field, and address the difficult questions related to wild turkey ecology and management.
Our goal
is to serve as your connection to wild turkey science. It's kind of weird looking at you sitting in my office.
I'm in your recording bathroom. Was it Lake that recently said that? It was like
no, it was Thibodeau.
That's who it was, yeah. And now I understand that you're not just completely an idiot, because it is difficult to figure out the recording settings in this office.
Yeah, for some reason it just will not participate right out of the gate.
I thought it was just you. I'm going to be honest.
Well, I'm glad. See, we had to get Will all the way down to Gainesville to tinker around with the settings in my office to understand that it's difficult to set up every time for some reason.
You got too many devices in here. It's overwhelming for me.
Too many gadgets. Yeah. Well, it's going to be an exciting trip. So you haven't gotten to go see the turkeys yet, but we're going to go right after we get done with this. So I think we need to knock this thing out.
Yeah. Let's do that. Especially because we got a couple little girls that are super excited about it too.
I know. Yeah, seeing Ellie light up about it.
Yeah.
Definitely got me excited. Everyone has been so excited to meet her, and she's been calling her friend that she doesn't know yet.
Oh my God, that's so sweet.
But she's been really excited to take her out to see the turkeys. So
yeah.
So
it turns out that turkeys are not the only declining species of bird.
Yeah. Just recently, this bird State of the Bird report circulated again, and it's one of those things. I kind of knew what was going to be inside of it, but when you open it, it's like, yeah,
it's kind of disheartening. Take the wind out of your sails a little bit to see.
Yeah, and we can link it in the show notes so people. It's really easy, honestly, to digest. It's super visual and concise, and they're focused on the bird groups that are specialists. So like when they're talking about grasslands, they're talking about grassland obligate species. So they wouldn't even, like turkeys wouldn't even be in the report because it's not an obligate.
Yeah.
Right? But
so it's broken down by the primary ecosystems across North America and the species that are obligated to those ecosystems. So for example, where we are right now, we'd be a part of the eastern forest, and then you move further west and get into the Great Plains, and then those are the grassland species, and then so on and so forth. So it's a really high level view, but like you said, this particular document that we're looking at today is put out for more of a like an enthusiast or the general public to consume. But this is all based on Rosenberg and others, a paper that they published in 2019 in Science. And I think that we've referenced a couple times on the show, but never really talked about it in a great deal of detail.
Yeah, I think when we had the Habitat series, we brought up some of the things that this is the update to, that, some of our declining guilds are things that overlap a lot in habitat needs with turkeys. For example, a lot of the grassland obligates would overlap quite a bit with what we would want for poultry and cover,
right,
or nesting cover in some cases. So, we can gain a lot of the forest dwelling species. What do they call it in here? The eastern forest birds. a lot of those are, that is a wide range of species. Some of them need undisturbed closed canopy mature forest, but a lot of them need, different stages in that forest succession or gaps or different conditions in those forests, and a lot of those overlap a lot with turkeys.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. And so just starting out on the broad level overview, so this has changed since 1970. And so turkeys are included, or they, hypothetically would be included in it doesn't specify turkeys in this particular document, but just based on geographic distribution, they would primarily be categorized as the eastern forest birds, which have declined by about a third since 1970.
Yeah. 33%.
But then what's really informative, relevant to what you were just talking about, Marcus, is you scroll down because then they have
Well,
that.
so this figure that we're cutting in right now,
Yeah.
people can probably already see that isn't the worst off. Well, actually, the forest birds is 27%. I looked at the shore birds when you said that. The third went to that 33%. Shore birds are down 33%. Arid land birds, so those are primarily out in the west, southwest region, but those are down 41%, and then grassland birds are down 43%.
Yeah.
43%.
Yeah, but what's a little bit confusing about this though is that, like, some people, I kind of disagree with this, but this isn't the Bob White science podcast, but some people call Bob White's a grassland bird.
Yeah.
I think they're more of a shrubland bird, but anyway.
Yeah, and I know Dwayne would echo that. I have heard him say it.
Yeah. So you would think that grassland bird would definitely include bobwhite, but it's talking more about the Great Plains region. So the tall grass prairie, the mixed grass prairie, the short grass prairie. So bobwhite would actually be thrown in with eastern forest birds, I would presume, because you get down to that section where it breaks them all out and it shows you the range that it's talking about, and it shows you the species, and it talks about, most importantly, the specific issues that are being faced in each of those regions. And what it really highlights, I mean, it's like the first bullet point on eastern forest birds is that disturbance dependent birds are in trouble.
Yeah. Well, and I think, if you go through that, what does that mean? Well, they said basically there are steep declines in the species of birds that use shrubby areas or older forests with lots of canopy gaps and a diverse understory.
Yeah. Yep.
Sounds a lot like turkey habitat.
It does. And it also sounds like old growth forest structure too.
Yeah.
And I think we may have mentioned that before, but a lot of people, when they think about old growth, they just think about mature closed canopy forest.
Yeah.
Old growth also has to do with the structure of the forest and not just the age and the size of trees. And so the expectation is, as a forest becomes old growth, it has actual heterogeneity in it. It has complexity, structural complexity. So it's not all just even closed canopy forest, but through the natural processes of disturbance, things like storms and fire, you're going to get some heterogeneity throughout it. So some areas will be more open, some areas more closed, some areas more understory, and some areas less.
Which sounds a lot like variable retention.
Exactly.
So, yeah, and they did make a point to say old forest with canopy gaps because there's variation in light penetration and structure that comes with that, and the diverse understory. We've been to plenty of places where you have closed canopy hardwood or whatever, and there's very little in the understory. That's not the condition. In fact, they did note in in this publication the species that are associated with those conditions, those forest conditions, the closed canopy, the limited understory structure. The bird species associated with those conditions are doing okay. They're stable or inclining.
Yeah, exactly.
It is the disturbance-dependent species that are all declining. So, I think that's pretty telling. You went straight to the eastern birds, and that I understand completely why. But before you get to that is the grassland ones, which again, that's up in the Midwest to the upper Midwest, tall grass prairie, short grass prairie, all that you mentioned earlier. And they also have bullet points on what's wrong there. And the first bullet point is losing grasslands by the millions.
Yeah. And I assume that that's related to agriculture and development.
So they provide some solutions, recommendations, I guess, high level recommendations. But it says the Great Plains grasslands are being lost at 1 to 2 million acres per year, and the solutions are conservation easements, improving grazing practices, invasive plant removal. They also note that groundwater, soil health, and economic resilience of farm communities is, of utmost importance.
Mm-hmm.
So,
sounds very familiar to the situation that we encountered in Nebraska a couple years ago. This, in particular, when we had conversations with those biologists about how, the CRP, particularly like the field border management, when more acres go into that program, they see an increase in a lot of game birds, and when acres come out of it, they see a decline.
yeah. So, we could continue to belabor the point. I guess the upside of the whole document, the dabbling ducks and diving ducks and water birds have all increased over that time, although they did note the ducks, the dabbling and diving ducks, have more recently declined again. They're not back to that baseline of what they were in 1970, but there's been a pretty substantial decline, I'd say, over the past 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, at least there's one silver lining there.
Yeah. So it's not necessarily across the board. And then also I'll note for the grassland birds, for example, they had in they're covering 24 species in that. 7 of those species are increasing, which I was trying to find what those birds were, and it was not easy for me to find, but I'm imagining it's probably something like like meadowlarks or things that do well in improved pasture grasses.
Maybe a killdeer.
Yeah, or intensively grazed systems that, some species do better in that kind of situation. So,
yeah.
But 13 of the species are declining.
Well, it looks like it's got a meadowlark as the symbol for grassland birds there. The little silhouette on the figure.
Oh, it's actually a Baird sparrow, I think.
You can tell that just from that silhouette?
No, but they have a picture of it down farther.
Oh, okay. You got to say the silhouette does. I was going to be impressed.
Count it.
No, it's a meadowlark. It's a meadowlark silhouette.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I don't know where the silhouette is you're talking about.
It's on the main figure.
Oh, okay.
Anyway,
up farther than where I'm at. I'm on the grassland page right now.
All right. Well, what is our point of covering this, Marcus?
Well, clearly all these species are declining because of raccoons.
And corn.
And corn.
And burning during nesting season.
Yeah. Well, I think, we're being facetious because we're getting picked on about those things. And you know what? We're both in the spotlight, I guess, so to speak, if people are listening to us.
Yeah.
We're putting ourselves out there, and we're certainly not mincing words with the way we think about some of these things. So, to me, I think this is important, first of all, because I think a lot of our audience may not be aware that we have, probably hundreds of species that are declining that are associated with habitat characteristics that turkeys reproduce in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So to me, that's kind of the point here is we are talking about things that affect turkeys across the Southeast and across this Midwest and upper Midwest, those two that we focused on a lot. And essentially, almost all of the species that are associated with the habitat characteristics we would associate with high quality brooding cover and or nesting cover are declining.
Yeah.
And some of them are declining rapidly.
Yeah. And this is not just occurring at this large national or regional scale as, depicted in these figures or in this particular PDF. But even if you look at state level data, there's a really good figure that I grabbed several years ago that was put out by Mississippi State Agency, MDFWP?
MDWFP.
I always get the FW messed up.
It's close enough. You got all the right letters.
Yeah, well, I got them in there. It's anyway, but they have a really good figure, and it shows northern bobwhite, grasshopper sparrow, Henslow sparrow, and maybe like prairie warbler and like one other, but all generally species that are considered either facultative grassland species or obligate grassland species, more towards the obligate end.
Mm-hmm.
And the curve of their declines all looks kind of the same,
Yeah.
And I present that figure when I'm talking about bobwhite management in my class, because bobwhites, a lot of people think the same thing as they do with wild turkeys, that predators are the main issue there. And I'm like, well, there's predation going on in these other species too. Like their nests also get raided, and adults get killed and things like that, but not to the same extent that a turkey does. And particularly with some of the smaller songbirds, you don't have the concern about the like the bobcats or the coyotes to the same extent that you would with a turkey.
Yeah. Well, and while we're belaboring this point, I'll go ahead and add on to it. A lot of these species don't overlap that much in what their predators are.
Right.
Some of them are almost exclusively avian. Some of them are more reptile, like snake. Some of them are mammalian. Some of them share different suites of those species. But if they're associated with grasslands or the disturbance-dependent eastern forest birds, they're all declining.
Yeah, Daddy.
So, to me, it's kind of like a look in the mirror. Like, we can slice this all kinds of ways, but habitat's a problem.
Yeah. And then the other thing, too, is we're not trying to say that habitat is not, or habitat is the exclusive issue, that, the context of predation has not changed, because it almost certainly has, especially when you consider that the habitat changes that have made it worse for the birds that we're talking about today have made it better for the predators.
Yeah.
And
we're actively doing things like feeding the predators that make this probably even magnifying the problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, I guess we're just going to make everybody mad today. But to me, that, like, when you see this report come out, it's just, like I said, a look in the mirror. It's like, wow, this is not just turkeys. This is across the board. I mean, pretty concerned about it. We've cut it a different way. I don't remember the publication, but we have it cited somewhere, and I didn't go look it up again for this one. When you look at the insectivorous species, pretty much all declining.
Yeah.
Like all of them.
Yeah.
It's like, dang. So to me, this is a pretty important thing for us to cover, and reason that I thought it would be a good idea for us to just have a quick, hard-hitting episode, hopefully, for people that, we got some major issues, regardless of where you're listening from. I'm assuming most people are listening because they're somewhere that turkeys are. Pretty much everywhere there are turkeys, there's problems. And some of those we can try to address at the local level, and we're going to have lots of people do it at the local level, to to start affecting things at the landscape scale.
Yeah, I think that's super important because, this isn't about a we're right and you're wrong kind of thing or trying to disprove people that, are more on the predator side of that being the primary issue. This is about trying to make a point so that we can turn it into a call to action. It's not because we get some satisfaction out of being right about this that it's habitat and not predators, and we're just trying to prove that point. Is to motivate people because we think that habitat is the only solution on a broad scale to fixing this problem.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why anybody would think I got satisfaction out of looking at some of these maps. I mean,
Yeah.
are you serious? Like,
Yeah.
this is awful. And then I'm sitting out, we're about to go out here and visit all these little turkeys and, you know, like watching them go through these habitat treatments and everything is like, yeah, now we've got to figure out how to get people to do this on millions of acres.
Yeah.
How are we going to do that? I'm going to speak louder into the microphone. That's all I can think to do. What am I supposed to do here? Like, we're both screaming it from the rafters,
Well, I think we're doing as much as we can, and I mean, we've already apparently. I don't want to. I don't know, sound braggadocious by saying it, but I mean, apparently, a couple million acres already have been impacted by some of the stuff we've talked about. So, I mean, even if it is an uphill battle, it's a battle that has to be fought.
Yeah. Clearly, we're not doing enough because the Southeast is still not looking good.
Yeah.
So maybe folks can give us some comments out there. What do you think we need to do?
Well, I mean,
Teach people how to
directly,
trap? I mean, like there are going to be some people that say that, and that's
yeah,
fine.
yeah,
I don't know how you can look at this and think that that's the primary problem.
yeah. Well, and the
But
document even points it out too, and I think we'll probably get some feedback along these lines that you have to financially incentivize people
yeah,
and provide them with assistance, whether that's knowledge and information on how to do things, which is primarily what you and I are trying to do, or actually, helping them physically implement it.
yeah. So we've got to incentivize, educate, and assist.
There you go. Sounds like you just developed a program.
I feel like we've got enough programs. Like somebody else is. I mean, there are a lot of people obviously that are trying to help, and there are a lot of people out there that they know this and they are actively doing their part. And thank you for doing that. But we gotta do more. I mean, when you look at the Bachman sparrow map, that's just in the southeast. But I thought it was kind of telling because I would associate Bachman sparrow particularly with brooding cover.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
look at their declines across the southeast. I thought it was particularly interesting in western Louisiana and eastern Texas, where we've seen some issues over there with turkeys. There's been lots of work done in those areas, and here's a similar species, at least at one life stage, has similar needs, uh, declining there. But it is all up and down the eastern coast as well, all the way down into central Florida.
Well, I mean, you can turn it around. I mean, I got some text messages over the weekend from a landowner that I've been working with for about the past year that, I mean, even before I started working with him, he was doing a lot of the right things, had the farm headed in the right direction. But it's improved even more so now, and this is his first, brood rearing season since he's made a lot of those improvements. And I can't remember what the actual number of broods was. I think it was like 5 or 6 broods on about 350 acres.
Yeah.
And it came out to a pulp per approximately every 10, 15 acres, somewhere in that neighborhood that he was counting across the property as far as the density. And he doesn't have a lot of good habitat around him. He's kind of an island in that regard, but it's clearly working. What he's doing as far as habitat improvements.
Yeah. Well, I think
So it is possible to move the needle on a particular piece of ground. It's just like you said, the real challenge is how do we repeat that over millions of acres?
Yeah. Well, and I also going with anecdotes, there have been several times where species, most of the work that I do with private landowners like you is in the southeastern U.S. So the bird species that I'm referencing are primarily those eastern forest birds, but a lot of these disturbance dependent bird species that are associated with different habitat characteristics that we would associate with nesting or brooding, the things that make turkey populations really productive. I have watched them and had landowners notice that those things show up in really quick order.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, there's indigo buntings everywhere.
Well, it seems like quail are oftentimes the first one that they notice because, I mean,
Yeah.
everybody knows what a bob white whistle is, but then
Yeah,
let's
and
see
then
that
I'm
they
like,
hear
man,
those. Yeah.
you're on the right track if they showed up.
Yeah.
They are the canary in the coal mine, so to speak. You're on the right track.
And you know what? It turns out that canary quit singing a long time ago, and we haven't been listening. We haven't
We
taken
didn't
heed of
notice.
that. Yeah.
Well, I think that that's another thing that can equip people. Like, it's hard to get a robust data set on how the turkeys actually responded, right? It's hard to see faults. It's hard to know were nests more successful. But if indigo bunting showed up, your nesting success probably increased.
Yeah.
If bobwhite showed up, your brooding success probably increased. Like, those are also good indicators. They're good data points for you to understand, are you achieving what you're trying to accomplish?
Maybe we should focus on that instead of trying to teach people native plant identification so that it's a lot easier. It's a lot easier to learn, an indigo bunting song or, visual
what's that
identification.
really bright blue bird that showed
Right,
up?
right.
Well, I mean, I already do that when I'm consulting with people, because I do think it also opens a door for people.
Yeah.
I've seen it happen, and not everybody, but some people get really interested. They become birders, kind of, because the birds respond so quickly to things. And when you get it right, some birds are going to show up,
Yeah.
the right set of birds. And I think that's a really great tool. And I've just watched a lot of people get fascinated with that. And I'm one of the people that did. Like, when I started thinking about it that way,
Yeah.
I'm one of the people that got fascinated with it, and now I'm listening for them.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things that I love most about birds and birding in general is that they have such a strong and easily observable relationship with vegetation.
Yeah.
It's so easy to get a index of what the habitat consists of if you know some species of birds and their habitat requirements.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm all about it. Like, the more connections that we can help people form with the land, I think the greater the outcome is going to be longer term. And you just reminded me of talking about that. I don't think I talked about this last time we recorded, but you can stop me if we did. But I was working with a landowner a couple of weeks ago recently, and I was showing him some of the plants like that he had just implemented some fire in some of his pine stands, had some really good looking breeding cover coming back, and a pretty significant diversity of forbs that were responding in there. And so we walked out there, and I started showing him, this plant, this is this plant, this is what it's good for, and this is what that's good for. And he told me that he has actually been, I appreciated this so much, he has been photographing each of these plants, printing out the photos, mounting them in a binder, like on cardstock, and writing their identification on there so that he can learn these plants.
Yeah.
And while we were out there and I was showing some of them to him, he said, "What a shame to have all this and not even know it's here." And I was like, man, that really hit
deep right there.
It hit me, because I've never had anybody say that to me before. And this was not, some guy that you would expect, just based on like your first impression of him to be that kind of person that wants to learn every single flower and stuff.
Yeah.
He's a very utilitarian guy, classic red-blooded hunter type guy. But he appreciated that, and he was like, "Man, what a shame to have all this and not know what it is." And
Yeah.
I just thought that that was such a profound statement
Mhm.
and it showed, his deep appreciation for understanding
Yeah.
that world like that.
Well, and that's similar to what I was describing a few minutes ago, where, sometimes it's plants for people, sometimes it's pollinators, sometimes it's the ornate birds. What kind of stimulates that kind of sentiment from people. But I have watched that on multiple people where they didn't have me over there because they wanted some kind of rare butterfly.
Yeah.
But when they did, they wanted more turkeys, and they implemented this really cool field management that led to, a diversity of wildflowers showing up, and then all of a sudden they had some kind of cool butterfly show up, and then all
Yeah.
of a sudden it was one of the things that they want to showcase. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, whoa, this is so cool. Like, they didn't know they had it
Yeah.
until it was right in their face, and it was in response to what they were doing, and they, it's like the same thing can happen for plants or various guilds of animals. But I always appreciate those interactions, and I also kind of feel like I have done that several times over the years where, like, I find a new group of species that now I've just gotten excited about, like, reinvigorates the excitement about what we're
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah, I've gone through phases with, herps and of
Yeah.
course, plants and birds and, you know
Well, and, a lot of people out there are probably like, "Well, I'm not gonna man, how am I gonna spend all the time to learn all these things?" Well, technology has opened the door, and that recently happened to me with the bird community, in the last several years. When Merlin came out, the app Merlin, uh, like, it just completely opened the door for me to relearn all of these species. Like, you can just turn it on, it records on your smartphone. It's recording sound, and then it will tell you the things that it detects, and
Yeah.
it's not perfect, but it detects a bunch of things, and then I start cueing in when it detects it, and then I start putting together which bird is it detecting, and next thing you know, you got a pretty decent list of birds.
Yeah.
Same thing with the Seek app. You can take a picture of a butterfly or a flower on a plant, and it's pretty good
Mhm.
at getting you really close to what that is.
Yeah.
I use that constantly with my kids. I use it all the time when I'm out with landowners. I'll see a plant or a butterfly or whatever that I don't know what it is, and I just constantly am using these technologies to help me continue to learn.
Yeah. What's great about it though is with all those guilds that you just talked about, like once you learn a couple of dozen of them, then the ones that occur most commonly, then it just becomes occasionally encounter a new one that you have to learn and then, it's easier to incorporate and build
Yeah,
that knowledge out from there because most of the stuff that you need to know, you're going to encounter all the time and it's
right.
not going to be that many and then you just build out from there.
Yeah, and I think a good example of that is the forb community. Like, that's daunting. You probably, on a few hundred acres, you might have hundreds of species, right? Most of those species are not very common, though.
Right. Yeah. There's a couple of dozen that you're going to see over
Yeah,
and over.
you're gonna have 20 or 30 species that are just all over the place, and
Right.
maybe 5 of them that are just, often dominating,
Right.
and, learning
Probably not native.
those sometimes they are, sometimes they are, it depends.
The 5 I'm talking about the 5 that are dominating.
Well, that could be, one of the goldenrods, like Canada goldenrod,
Yeah.
in some cases, it's partridge pea or ragweed,
Yeah, they can.
so
Mhm.
but, yeah, I mean, I feel like we kinda went through that slump in the beginning of this episode, and now we're coming back up the hill where, there's a lot of information out there for folks to use to help them. We have several anecdotes from various places where people have made a real difference on their land, not just for turkeys, but a suite of these species that are not doing well. And, this is something for those folks that are listening that aren't all in turkey all the time. We do have some of those people, and they're just wildlife enthusiasts, and some, at least a few, are working on some of these non game species. You know, I have pretty deliberately tried in my programming to leverage the interest in the game species like turkeys or deer or quail to get people to take action that benefits these other species. And you know, I talk to a lot of biologists in those other spaces, and you know, they're really focused on these non-game species and really frustrated because it's hard to get people to
Yeah.
do stuff.
Yeah.
At least at large scales. There's
Right.
definitely individual landowners, and you can do it on public land for, you know, this endangered
Right.
bird species or whatever. But, you know, I think one effective way when now we're showing links between the things that are driving landowner decision making, which is often the game species in the southeast at least, and the you know the other species that maybe those landowners don't care about. We can still get them to take actions that benefit those species because of what they do care about. They're clear links. Same could be said about whitetails. You know, what we would try to produce to have really high quality, abundant vegetation for a lactating female deer is also brooding cover, which is
That's
also
right.
great cover for Bachman sparrow often.
That's right.
So,
Takes all of us
yeah,
working together.
it's just, you know, a different perspective and thinking about these different perspectives and how we can try to achieve common goals. I mean, you and I obviously aren't enough to move the needle for everything, so we're going to have everybody working toward it from different angles. I don't see how else
That's right.
to move the needle, right? So I know it can be frustrating sometimes, especially when a report like this comes out and it's like, darn it, the grassland species still.
Well, we executed on our formula. We started out with doom and gloom, and then we provided some solutions, and then we inspired. So
Yeah, now I kind of feel like we're slipping again.
yeah, we're going back down the hill. So let's call it good, and let's get these girls out to see these poults.
Yeah. Hey, also for folks out there, if you want us to do an episode, I'm indifferent, but I think it might be fun to do an episode on us reflecting on how that goes.
Yeah.
So we'll see how our audience feels about that. You know,
Let us know.
I gotta imagine it'll be a little less sciencey, maybe a little more
Anecdotal.
Yeah.
I mean, it's June, man. What do they expect? We can chill out for a little bit.
If they're still thinking about turkeys, I'm down. Like, you're my kind of people.
Oh yeah, but now I feel like my mind starts going into habitat management for turkeys now.
Oh yeah, but it's still on turkeys.
It's always there, but there's a lot we can do right now. But yeah.
Hey, did you go look at some of the footage in our previous episode?
No, I haven't gone back and looked at the YouTube stuff.
Yeah, where we last episode, if you didn't listen, I was kind of reflecting on my life as a turkey.
Yeah.
And Charlotte just cut in all kinds of footage. I mean, it was delayed getting up because she's got like, I don't know, maybe 150 or 200 clips from various things that were going on that she cut into the video footage. So really, really cool stuff.
I'll definitely have to check that out. Maybe if we can get down to the hotel in time tonight, I can check it out before we go to bed. But
yeah, well, priority is go visit the turkeys. So if you don't get to visit it, see the footage, you'll get to visit it.
Yeah, we'll go see the turkeys, hit the road, get down there, and then talk about turkeys more tomorrow.
Yeah. Yep. And just to let everybody know, we got invited to come to the Florida Wildlife Corridor Summit, and it's a gathering of people that have that same mission, and they asked us to come and I guess do a live podcast with a Q&A, and we're going to see how that goes. So you may see an episode. We do have some really cool work that's coming out on the Florida Wildlife Corridor and wild turkeys, especially the Osceola subspecies endemic to Florida. So we're going to talk about that work, and there's going to be a live audience that can ask us questions or whatever. So we'll see how this goes, but you might get an episode here in the next couple that is a little bit different than usual.
Yeah. Or we may air it before this one, possibly. Oh, probably not. We're kind of good. Yeah.
But you may have already
Anyway.
seen it. I don't know. Charlotte,
We don't know anything.
Charlotte, please just make us not look so bad.
All right, get us off there, Marcus. Thank y'all.
All right, thanks, everybody, for listening. Talk to y'all later.
Wild Turkey Science is part of the Natural Resources University podcast network and is made possible by Turkeys for Tomorrow, a grassroots organization dedicated to the wild turkey. To learn more about TFT, check out turkeysfortomorrow.org.